Learning objectives. After completing this module, learners will be able to understand the development of towns in the 14th century onwards in the Indian subcontinent. Describe and understand the role of traders and craftspersons in towns. Understand the role of European seafarers and what brought them to India. Describe how the European companies began trading with India but ultimately took control of it. Chola temple towns. Towns had their distinct features. They could be administrative centers, temple towns, hubs of commercial activities, or crafts production. Temple towns are milestones in the pattern of urbanization. They reflect the process by which cities developed. Administrative centers. The temple towns of Thanjavur in Tamil Nadu shaped up under the Chola dynasty. King Rajaraja Chola constructed the Rajarajeshwara temple and had a huge Shivalinga installed in it. Kunjara Mallan Rajaraja Perunthacchan was the architect of this magnificent temple. The town also had army barracks. Palaces with mandapas or pavilions were erected for the purpose of holding royal courts and issuing orders. Wells and tanks met with the water needs of the town. Temples, being the nucleus of activities, boosted the economy and the social life. The Salia weavers of Thanjavur and Urayur towns spun cloth for the flags to be used in the temples during festivals, fine cottons for the king and the nobility, and coarse cotton for the commoners. Kings proclaimed their devotion to various deities by building and dedicating temples to them. Kings' merchants often made liberal grants of land and money to the temples. It helped the temples to carry out elaborate rituals, feed pilgrims, and meet expenses of festival celebration. At village, Swami Malai, the sthapatis or sculptors, adept in metal craft, made magnificent bronze idols and tall and ornamental bell metal lamps. Temple towns and taxes. The temple authorities invested their money in banking activities and also to finance trade, which eventually led to the expansion of the town. Other towns that developed on a similar pattern were Bhilla Swamin, that is Bhilsa or Vidisha in Madhya Pradesh, and Somnath in Gujarat. Kanchipuram and Madurai in Tamil Nadu and Tirupati in Andhra Pradesh were other such important temple towns. Vrindavan, Uttar Pradesh, and Thiruvannamalai, Tamil Nadu also emerged as pilgrimage towns similarly. Ajmer, Rajasthan, the capital of the Chauhan kings in the 12th century, which later became the Mughals' Suba headquarters, is an admirable example of religious harmony. Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti, the celebrated Sufi saint, settled here in the 12th century. He is visited by devotees from all creeds. Pilgrims also flock to the Pushkar Lake, which is close to Ajmer. A network of small towns. 8th century onwards, many large villages had transformed into small towns. Towns had mandapika or mandi visited by the local villagers to sell their products. They also had market streets called hatta or hut lined with shop. Artisans such as potters, oil pressers, sugar makers, toddy makers, smiths and toned masons had separate streets to sell their products. Some traders resided in the same village, while others moved from town to town. Traders visited towns to purchase local products and sell products like horses, salt, camphor, saffron, betel nut, and spices brought from far-flung places. Samanta or modern-day zamindar living in a fortified palace in or near these towns had the authority to levy taxes on traders, artisans and products of trade. They sometimes gave or donated the right to collect taxes to the authorities of temples built by them or by affluent merchants. These rights find mention in inscriptions available to us today. Taxes on markets. Traders big and small. Banjaras were one of the many kinds of traders. Traders, especially horse traders, formed association with the headmen to deal for them with warriors buying horses. For their safety while passing through dense forests and other kingdoms, the traders travelled in caravans and formed guilds to protect their interests. Of the many such guilds that came into existence 8th century onwards, Manigramam and Nanadesi were most famous. These guilds traded far within the peninsula with Southeast Asia and China. The Chettiars and the Marwari Oswals became the chief trading communities of the country. Hindu Banias and Muslim Bohras, Gujarati trading communities, had flourishing business with the ports of the Red Sea, Persian Gulf, East Africa, Southeast Asia and China. Textiles and spices were the chief merchandise of these traders. They bought gold and ivory from Africa, spices, tin, Chinese blue pottery, and silver from Southeast Asia and China. The Italian traders used to buy Indian merchandise from the Red Sea ports and sell them in the European markets at very high prices. Spices grown in tropical climates, cinnamon, pepper, nutmeg, dried ginger, etc., became an essential part of European cooking. Apart from spices, the European traders were majorly drawn to India for cotton cloth. Crafts in towns. Bidar became famous for the intricate inlay work in copper and silver by its craftspersons. The art came to be known Bidri after the town's name. The Panchalas or Vishwakarma community was essential for temple building. It comprised of goldsmiths, bronzesmiths, blacksmiths, masons and carpenters. They were crucial to the construction of huge buildings, palaces, tanks and reservoirs. Salyars or kaikukkalars of the weaver community prospered so much that they even made donations to temples. Some functions of cloth making like cotton cleaning, spinning and dyeing became specialized and independent crafts. While Ahmedabad, Gujarat and some other towns emerged as major commercial cities, Tanjore diminished in size and did not remain as important over the centuries. Murshidabad, West Bengal, on the banks of Bhagirathi, a prominent centre for silks, became the capital of Bengal in 1704. It declined over a period of time as the weavers lost to the competition from the cheap mill-made cloth from England. A closer look. Hampi. Hampi, situated in the Krishna-Tungabhadra basin, had a pivotal position in the Vijayanagara Empire. It was founded in 1336. Portuguese traveller Domingo Paes visited Hampi in the 16th century and appreciated it as a fortified city guarded by strong walls and towers. Wedge-shaped stone slabs were interlocked to create walls. It was a strong masonry technique which did not use any mortar or cementing agent. Hampi had a distinctive architecture. The royal complex had buildings with magnificent arches, domes and pillared halls with slots to hold sculptures. Its well-laid orchards and pleasure gardens were full of sculptural motifs like lotus and corbels. Hampi was a hub of commercial and cultural activities in the 15th and 16th centuries. The markets of Hampi were flocked by Muslim merchants, chettis and agents of European traders such as the Portuguese. Hampi temples were also the seats of cultural activities. Devdasis or temple dancers used to perform in the Virupaksha, a form of Shiva temple. The Mahanavami festival or Navaratri was celebrated with a lot of fanfare at Hampi. The king entertained guests and was offered gifts by subordinate chiefs at the Mahanavami platform. He also viewed dance and musical performances and wrestling from the platform. The glorious Hampi faced downfall after Vijayanagara's defeat in 1565 by the combined forces of the Deccan Sultans, the rulers of Golconda, Bijapur, Ahmednagar, Berar and Bidar. A closer look. Surat. Surat in Gujarat during the Mughal period, along with Cambay or Khambat, and Ahmedabad later on, was a passage for trade with West Asia via the Gulf of Ormuz. As pilgrim ships headed to Mecca commenced their journey from here, it was also called the Gate to Mecca. The Portuguese, Dutch and English set up their factories and warehouses here in the 17th century. English chronicler Ovington's description in 1689 mentions presence of nearly 100 ships from different countries at the port at a time. Cotton textiles were sold through retail and wholesale shops at the port. Surat textiles, demanded for its gold lace border or zari, had a wide market in West Asia, Africa and Europe. The Kathiawar Seths or Mahajans, money changers, managed huge banking houses at Surat. Markets in distant cities like Cairo in Egypt, Basra in Iraq, Antwerp in Belgium honored the Surat hundis. Surat faced decline towards the end of the 17th century because 1. The Mughal Empire was waning. 2. Control of sea routes by the Portuguese caused a loss of market and productivity at Surat. 3. The English East India Company shifted its headquarters to Bombay or Mumbai in 1668 and offered stiff competition. Today, Surat is a busy commercial centre. A closer look. Masulipatnam. Masulipatnam or Machilipatnam, fish port town, located on the Krishna River delta, was a hotbed of activities in the 17th century. The Dutch and the English East India Companies competed to control Masulipatnam when it became the most important port on the Andhra coast. The Dutch built the fort at Masulipatnam. To prevent the various East India Companies from dominating the trade, the Qutub Shahi rulers of Golconda imposed royal monopolies on the sale of textiles, spices, and other items. Various trading groups, the Golconda nobles, Persian merchants, Telugu Komati Chettis, and European traders competed with each other for trade, making the cities populous as well as prosperous. With the expansion of Mughal power to India, their representative, Governor Mir Jumla, began to incite the Dutch and the English against each other. After Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb annexed Golconda in 1686 to 1687, the European companies had to look for other places. The English East India Company got ambitious and formulated a new policy directing extension of their political, administrative and commercial controls. The company trade centres were not to remain mere ports having connections with the production centres. Masulipatnam's glory declined when the company traders moved to Bombay, Mumbai, Calcutta, Kolkata, and Madras, Chennai. It lost its merchants and affluence both during the 18th century. New towns and traders. The English, Dutch, and French formed East India Companies in the 16th and 17th centuries, primarily to expand their commercial trading activities in the East. They targeted Indian spices and textiles hugely popular in Europe and West Asia. Seasoned Indian traders like Mullah Abdul Ghaffur and Virji Vora owned ships. Initially, they got in a competition with them. Unable to withstand the naval might of the European companies, Indian traders were forced to work as the European company's agent. Eventually, the English emerged triumphant. They successfully established control over commerce and politics in the subcontinent. Increased demand for Indian textiles encouraged more and more people to join associated activities like spinning, weaving, bleaching, dyeing, etc. The finesse of Indian textiles designs improved consistently. During this period, the craftspersons lost independence to sell their own cloth or weave their own pattern. They had to weave cloth as promised to the European agents in lieu of a paltry advance amount. They merely replicated the designs supplied to them by the company agents. Bombay, Calcutta and Madras, the nodal cities today, were emerging as important commercial centres in the 18th century. Crafts and commerce experienced major changes. The merchants and artisans like weavers were shifted to the black towns created by the European companies within these new cities for the blacks or the natives. The white rulers stationed themselves in superior residence of Fort St. George, Madras or Fort William, Calcutta. Vasco da Gama and Christopher Columbus. In the 15th century, the European sailors looked for unexplored sea routes to reach the Indian subcontinent to obtain spices. Vasco da Gama, a Portuguese sailor, navigated along the African coastline, rounded the Cape of Good Hope and sailed across the Indian Ocean to reach Calicut on India's west coast. After a year-long journey the first time, he touched Calicut in 1498. The next year, he returned to Lisbon, the capital of Portugal. En route, he lost 2 of his 4 ships. Only 54 out of 170 crew member at the start of the journey survived. Vasco da Gama opened up an extremely profitable route to India. He was followed by the English, Dutch and French sailors. The search for sea routes to India had an unexpected development when Christopher Columbus, an Italian sailor, assuming the earth to be round, sailed westward across the Atlantic Ocean to explore a sea route to India. He, however, reached islands named West Indies by him in 1492. The Spanish and Portuguese sailors and conquerors following Columbus' sea route reached Central and South America and destroyed the local settlements. Summary. Let us summarize what we have learned. The Salya weavers of Thanjavur and Urayur towns produced cloth for the temple festival flags, fine cottons for the kings and nobility, and coarse cotton for the commoners. The traders usually travelled in caravans and formed guilds to protect their interests while passing through various forests and kingdoms. Bidar developed as a famous town for its craftspersons inlay work in copper and silver called Bidri. Some towns like Ahmedabad, Gujarat, developed into major commercial cities, but some like Thanjavur reduced in size and stature over the centuries. Murshidabad, West Bengal, on the banks of the Bhagirathi, which rose to prominence as a centre for silks, became the capital of Bengal in 1704. Surat in Gujarat, along with Cambay or Khambad, and later on Ahmedabad, was referred to as gateway for trade with West Asia via the Gulf of Ormuz during the Mughal period. In the 17th century, the Portuguese, Dutch and English had their factories and warehouses at Surat. Hampi, located in the Krishna-Tungabhadra basin, the focal point of the Vijayanagara Empire, was founded in 1336. Masulipatnam or Machilipatnam fishport town, lying on the Krishna River Delta, was a hotbed of intense activities in the 17th century. With Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb's annexure of Golconda in 1686 to 1687, the European companies had to look for alternatives. In the 16th and 17th centuries, the English, Dutch, and French formed East India companies to expand their commercial trading activities in the East. Vasco da Gama, a